Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here today. My name is Liz Eberline, and I am the Education Programs Manager at the National Women's History Museum outside of Washington, D.C. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon for this very special Brave Girls virtual story time of Rainbow, a first book of pride with author Michael Genhart and illustrator Anne Passchier. For those of you who are with us for the first time, welcome. For those of you who have attended a Brave Girls program before, welcome back. We thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday to be with us today. As always, we are recording this presentation so that it can be available on our website following the event. Michael and Anne will be answering questions at the end of the reading, so if you or your little one would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A function on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. You may ask your question at any time during the presentation, and they will answer following the reading. Today's book is a sweet ode to rainbow families and an affirming display of a parent's love for their child and a child's love for their parents. With bright colors and joyful families, this book celebrates LGBTQ+ pride and reveals the colorful meaning behind each rainbow stripe. Anne Passchier is an illustrator and surface designer from the Netherlands, currently living in the USA. They are non-binary and use they, them pronouns, and they have previously illustrated several children's books focusing on identity and the LGBTQIA2S+ community, including Rainbow, a first book of pride, What Are Your Words by Catherine Locke, and Being You by Megan Madison and Jessica Rowley. They also create online comics about their experiences as a non-binary person under the pseudonym Andy Rajani. Anne lives with their 2 cats, loves to travel and draw, and enjoys all things spooky and Halloween. Michael Genhart, PhD, is a licensed clinical psychologist in private practice in San Francisco, where he sees children, teens, and adults specializing in matters impacting the LGBTQ+ community. He's also the author of several picture books. In 2021, his books include May Your Life Be Deliciosa and They're So Flamboyant. Other recent releases include Accordionly, Abuela and Opa Make Music, Rainbow, a first book of pride, and Love is Love. Michael is a SBWI Marin County co-coordinator, and you can check out his books at michaelgenhart.com, and I'll put that in the chat a little bit later. It is my very great pleasure to have both author and illustrator with us for today's Brave Girls virtual storytime presentation. Please help me welcome Michael and Anne.
Hey, good
Hello,
morning.
welcome.
Good morning. Happy Pride.
Hello.
Good morning. So, can I go ahead and get started?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
I will
great,
turn it
great.
over to you.
Okay, great. So, good morning, everyone. We are so thrilled to present Rainbow Book of Pride to you. I thought I would start by sharing some of my inspiration. Hold on. Okay, so when I was a little boy, I loved books. I love reading books, and here are a couple of my favorites. I read everything by E.B. White, Charlotte's Web. Again, I adored that story. And The Story of Ferdinand was one of my favorite books, a story of a bull who just wanted to be himself. And so that inspires and informs a lot of the books that I write, being yourself. I also, when I grew up, fell in love with John, and we've been together now 35 years. And so there's that. And along the way, we had a baby. That's me holding Gabby. And Gabby is now 25 and studying to be a teacher. So these are my inspirations. And of course, rainbows. Who doesn't love rainbows? They're everywhere, right? Everywhere you travel, in nature, it's always fun to see rainbows. I always stop what I'm doing and just admire the beauty, right? As I'm sure you guys do, they're everywhere. So rainbows, part of my inspiration as well. And then there is this thing called Stonewall. Some of you maybe have heard of Stonewall. If you haven't, Stonewall took place 50 years ago, and Stonewall is actually a place in New York City, a bar where queer people have been really treated poorly over history, And Stonewall was a big event in the queer movement where folks said, enough is enough. You know, you're not going to mistreat us anymore. And so I wanted to write something that celebrated the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, as well as the 40th anniversary of Gilbert Baker creating the first rainbow flags. Here's an image of Gilbert, and he created the first two flags in San Francisco. They had 8 stripes, not 6. Anyway, I wanted to celebrate Gilbert and the anniversary of the flag as well. And of course, his rainbow flag, you see it everywhere. You see it in buildings, right? You see it like on stairs and houses everywhere. So there's much to celebrate with regard to the rainbow flag. But what do the colors mean? I think very few of us know what the colors mean. And Gilbert assigned a meaning to each of the colors. And so I wanted to introduce what those meanings, the meaning of each color was, so that we all know what the meanings are. And I wanted to celebrate gay families, right? Gay families like any other family, moms, dads, kids loving their parents and parents loving their kids. That's what it's all about. So this book is also an introduction to gay families. And and it's about being proud. Just being proud of who you are. Maybe you're a great speller. Maybe you run fast. Maybe you love to draw, right? Maybe you have 2 moms or 2 dads. Whatever. There are lots of things to be proud of. So I wanted to celebrate being proud as well. And of course, I wanted to celebrate gay pride, right? For all of us to be, right, joining the queer community and celebrating being gay. So there's some fun images of gay pride. And here's some fun images. I just love being able to read my book to kids in bookstores and sort of take it on the road. So like we're sharing with you guys. And so here's some images of that. All right. And I guess the last part is, I think it's really important in books that kids get to see themselves in books that they read. And so that's like holding up a mirror, right? When you get to see your own reflection you see yourself in a character in a book, or I think it's important to see someone not like you in a book. And so that's the window idea, where you sort of peer through a window and you see someone or someone's experience unlike anything that you've experienced. And so you get that added exposure to someone not like you. So I wanted Rainbow to be that kind of book too. All right, so Anna's going to talk about the drawings, but let's go ahead and read Rainbow, our first book of pride. This is the book that's published by Imagination Press, which is a children's imprint of the American Psychological Association. And Anne's drawings are super cool, super lovely, and just really make the book what it is. So Rainbow, first book of pride. Rainbows. I see lots of hands holding up those rainbows. I wonder who's holding them up. Let's find out. There they are, all these kids holding up these rainbow flags. Every color means something. Let's find out what they mean. You ready? The first color is red. Red means life. And I see one very happy couple. Right here are 2 dads holding their newborn baby in the hospital, a new life. They're beginning their new life together. Red means life. They look happy, don't they? Orange. Orange is healing. Uh-oh. I think someone just took a tumble off a bike, and thank goodness for moms. Moms are there to help out. Everyone knows what an owie is. So here are two moms helping with the owie. Orange is healing. Yellow is sunlight. I see two dads with their baby enjoying their morning, their breakfast, the sun rising, and enjoying each other, right, as a family. Yellow is sunlight. Green. Green is nature. Okay, I see two moms and their daughter. They're out in nature. I see a rabbit. I see a squirrel. I see a butterfly, a couple butterflies, many butterflies. I see an owl. Green is nature. They look like they're having a good time. Did I miss any animal? Green is nature. Blue is harmony. Harmony is another word for people who just get along. Everyone's getting along. Blue is harmony. I think they're at a fair. I see all kinds of families enjoying their time out, right? Blue is harmony. Everyone getting along. Violet is spirit. I see two dads enjoying their daughter's artwork, and she's enjoying her own artwork, and I see a kitty getting into the action. Did you know that cats can paint too? Who knew? Violet is spirit. Everybody loves rainbows. I think that's true. And I do think that we all sort of stop when we see a rainbow in the sky to admire its beauty. Everybody loves rainbows. Rainbows make the world smile because they're everywhere, right? Everywhere in the world, right? And rainbow flags and rainbow families are everywhere in the world too. Rainbows sing out, be happy, be loved, be proud. And here are lots of gay families coming together for Pride, for a Pride parade, and just celebrating life. Lots of happy going around and lots of love. And to end, I have a short note. Rainbows are so colorful and beautiful. Nature's way is smiling at us all. Rainbow flags are happy too. They celebrate love, hope, diversity, and acceptance. Waving the flag says, this is who I am, and I stand proud. Happy Pride, everyone. Love your rainbow friend, Michael. Yay. That's the Rainbow First Book of Pride. Okay, so I'm going to back up and if you want to, I guess, talk about your work and your process.
Sketches, yeah.
Okay,
Hi, everyone.
Should I stop sharing then?
No, you can share this still
Okay.
For the sketches, and then
Okay.
when I draw, you can stop. Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, happy Pride. My name is Anne. I'm the person who illustrated this book. We thought it would be fun to show you all some of the sketches that it started out with. So this is one of the first pages, and it's actually kind of funny how this book didn't change a whole lot over the process. Like when you see this first sketch compared to you know, the next page, that's the final. We actually kind of agreed really quickly what sort of kids we wanted to be in the book. And a lot of it was that Michael and the publisher both said, you know, we want so many diverse kids. We want everyone to be able to see themselves in this book. And they were able to be really specific with what they wanted. So that was really cool and easy to work with. And then if you want to switch to, yeah, so that was the final that came from that first ever just quick line drawing that I did. And then we have one more sketch to show. This is the art you guys saw with the kitty. So again, quite similar to the final product, but you see how, you know, the colors and the colors we chose really make it come to life more and make it more of a really happy family scene with everyone enjoying each other's company and enjoying art as well. And speaking of art, I'm going to draw a little bit now for everybody.
So I'll stop share then.
Sure, yes. And I'm going to share my screen. So what you're about to see is basically how I work and how I draw different things. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is one of the little characters from the book that I'm going to be coloring and drawing on. And I'll talk a little bit about what my process is. And then if anyone has any questions, you know, just ask during, we can chat and draw and do all this at the same time.
Yeah, I'm going to step in really quickly and just remind everybody that if you do have a question, even while Anna's drawing, we can multitask and answer questions. So please don't hesitate to put any questions that you have into the chat or the Q&A box, and I will kind of help moderate that Q&A. So you can go ahead and send those at any time. So go ahead.
So usually what I do is, you see, I have this drawing and then I make it really, really light so you can barely see it. And I'll go over it with the colors. So this is going to be her skin color. And then I get really, really close so I can see what I'm doing. And these are called brushes, what I'm using right now. And if you can see, it's really, really textured, which is something I like to do. So I kind of just draw the edges, and I'm drawing on a tablet right now that I can draw on the actual screen. So I can kind of see what I'm doing, and it feels very much like drawing on paper. What's good about it is that it's a lot quicker than you know, having to do it all with like pencils, or like, you know, I like drawing with watercolor a lot. But if you do a whole, you know, watercolor painting and then have to change it, it would take a really long time. So
is this doing the illustration like this, like you're doing with Photoshop, is this something that you've always done? Is this kind of the standard with illustrators in books?
I don't know if it's the standard. I think it varies person to person. And this is something I started doing in college very much. One, because it was encouraged, and then also, you know, again, for like the speed factor of it and the amount of like changes you can make in the process. So I'm gonna quickly fill in her face.
So I have a question for both of you. When we were meeting before the program started, you said it was the first time that you had met each other in person. What is that like, to not ever meet in person and to do something like this?
I think it's a little weird to not to not meet. I mean, you sort of meet through the publisher. So you know, in many cases, actually, as the author, you don't get to see the artwork along the way. And sometimes you don't get to see your book until everyone else sees it. So that's really strange. This particular publisher is different in that there is a communication with the illustrator, but not directly. It's through the publisher.
Yeah.
So the process includes being able to see some of the early artwork. They're called sketches.
Yeah.
And the author gets to comment on the sketches gently, right? Because I mean, the illustration work makes half the book, and it's its own art form. And as an author, I don't draw, and I don't illustrate, and so I sort of feel like it's an honor to be able to comment on someone's work, but you do so, of course, respectfully. In any case, if I have a comment about, hey, what do you think about blah blah blah, or maybe the child can be doing this instead of that, then the publisher will send that comment, my comment, to the illustrator, right? Who decides then what to do with that. And then there's sort of a communication back and forth. Like if Anne had questions for me, it would come to me through the publisher. So it's a little awkward, I have to say, to communicate that way. And again, sometimes you never, ever, ever meet the illustrator. And again, this book came out, oh gosh, a couple of years ago, and we're meeting for the first time.
How long did it take? So it came out a few years ago, but how long did it take for it to come together between the words that you wrote and the illustrations itself?
Well, what's typical in the book world is that you can get your book, the words anyway, acquired, and then you probably won't see the book for 2 years, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Unless there's a particular sort of push to get the book out. So it can be a good 2 years before you see the book. And often people ask, well, what the heck? That's a long time.
Yeah.
And it's a long time because the work of an illustrator takes a long time. And you need a lot of time ahead before a book releases to market it.
Yeah.
A good 6 months before. So yeah, it can take, and then the writing of the book, depending on how complicated it is, can take as long as it takes, right, to get a good story down. This book, of course, is quite simple because I wanted to keep it simple and direct, and it's meant for younger kids, right? So it didn't take a long time. In any case, the development of the book can still take a couple of years, and that was true for this book. How is it for you, Anne, not being able to, not meeting the author?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's very common. You know, most of the other books I've illustrated, I also only meet people after the book has already been released, if ever, honestly. And what I've noticed still, which is nice, is that, you know, subjects like these about the LGBTQ community, we're all very passionate about the stories and getting our words and our stories out there. So people tend to collaborate with each other a lot more than when it's books on other topics sometimes, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cool. I think we're all just so excited to show kids depictions of themselves that they might not see everywhere. That we end up doing talks like this together just on our own. And I think that's really neat.
We have another event during Pride, and that event is connected to a New York City designer who loved the book so much, he developed a T-shirt based on the book. And so it's a very cool rainbow T-shirt. I'm wearing a rainbow T-shirt, as you can see, but his is way cooler, right? And so we're going to do an event at his, a virtual event at his store in New York City, featuring this T-shirt. And so we get to meet again.
Yeah.
And talk about rainbow through this T-shirt that's being released.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like art, art being made then prompts even more art about people being proud, and it's really rad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I'm just so kind of captivated by what's happening on the screen right now.
It's like a nice chill background.
It is. I love
it. And yeah.
And it just kind of seeing it all come together and kind of how this process works, I think it is really very cool. We've done a lot of these story times and we've had illustrators with us, but we haven't had this sort of component before. So to see it kind of come to life before your eyes, I think really gives it kind of that extra layer, which I'm so captivated. It's really cool.
Yeah, and you can kind of see how, it takes a while. This is just a little like doodle, but when you're doing whole spreads and pages with a bunch of people in them, like this book has, it can take a minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Anne, one question I have is there, if there's, are there kids out there, and I imagine there are, who love to draw and love to tell stories, who maybe write their own stories and want to illustrate their own stories. Is there a child version of this? That you're using that, kids and parents should know about?
Definitely. I think a lot of people have iPads these days. I think they're becoming more and more common. So you can do this on your iPad as well. And there's several different programs that are useful. I think one's called Procreate that has been really popular with all kinds of artists. But you don't have to do it this way. If you like to draw how you like to draw. Use whatever you feel like using. This is how I have been doing it in recent years, but that doesn't mean that that you need to as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's important, and maybe you can speak to this too, Anne, is you've been doing this for a long time and you make it look easy, right? Because of your skill and so forth. But I think it's important for kids to know about, something like this takes a lot of practice, but also being open to all the mistakes that we make along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, that we have to be okay with making lots of mistakes because that's how we learn. So can you, and maybe even demonstrate, what does the mistake look like and how is it corrected? And so that, kids feel like, yeah, that's part of the process. When you're learning something new, you make mistakes, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important to just keep trying and keep drawing if you like it. That's one thing. Like any other skill, it's something that you have to practice. And I don't think, some people may think that you have to have this natural ability to draw, and that's where it comes from. But I think anyone can learn. If you like it, you can make art. That you don't have to have any sort of special talent for it or anything. And in terms of mistakes, first of all, I see my own art from even a couple years ago, and even this book, and I go, wow, my art has changed a lot in a really short time. And that's just because I do it so much, and you keep practicing and you keep getting better. You know, mistakes happen. It's very different if you're drawing, say again, in watercolor or pencil. I mean, pencils have erasers, that's what they're for. In digital art, it's very nice because we have this handy thing called the undo button. And, you know, say for example, something were to bump into me right now and I go, whoa, oh no, oh, what happened? And you just go undo. So, yeah.
Or if your kitty gets in the way and.
Exactly.
Which I'm sure has never happened to you before.
Never at all. Nope. Not even once.
You know, I was doing another kind of virtual event for kids in Texas in their classroom. This is a month or so ago, and someone asked me, and I'm sharing this because it may be a question that some of you have. Hey, I would like to be an author too. What does it mean to be an author? How can I be an author? And my response was, do you like telling stories? And this little boy said, yeah. So do you have stories that you want to tell? And he said, yeah. Do you ever write them down? Do you ever write your stories down? And he said, yeah. And I said, guess what? You're an author. You're writing your stories down. And his response was, cool. Yeah. That's so cool. And so it's like that. If you have stories to tell, right? And you want to share them with others, start writing them down. If you want to draw to illustrate your own stories, that makes you an author illustrator, right? So anyone can be an author illustrator. And so, yeah, share your stories.
I think one of the things I love about this book is we see, you know, the rainbow flag, and we kind of understand what it means, especially during Pride Month, but not really understanding that there's meaning associated to those colors of the pride flag, and really what that means. And I really love that kind of, you know, talking about all of that throughout the story, that it's more than a flag. There is actual meaning behind it. I think it's beautiful. And really important for people, not just kids, to understand that that's the case as well.
Yeah, and a lot of important history too. You know, I think sometimes that gets overshadowed a little bit in pride parades. And you know, by mentioning Stonewall and talking about it and talking about Gilbert Baker, you know, maybe people will go and look it up further and discover, you know, all the wonderful Black trans women that have meant so much to LGBT history. Because they're all, you know, they're really amazing, inspiring stories to read. And
I think it's important. Yeah, important to note that the pride parades that we all know about and have perhaps been in or attended did not start out that way. Right. The first parade, well, it wasn't really called a parade, was in 1970 to mark the anniversary of Stonewall. And it was more of a protest. Right? People gathering together in protest, and it evolved into pride. And I think the evolution, even the use of the word pride, I think is a reference to what came before it, which was decades of shaming. Right? So it's sort of taking the opposite, right? We will no longer be treated poorly and shamed. We're out and proud, right? And we want to rejoice in that. But as Anne is pointing out, that part of history often gets overlooked or just is not known. So it's important to keep that perspective in mind, that, you know, it didn't all start with cheery colors and celebration.
Yeah.
Right. It started with more of it started out of upset, out of, you know, a fight for equality. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if any of our viewers are interested in learning a little bit more about Stonewall, we do have a few biographies on our website. We have a biography on Marsha P. Johnson, and, you know, some information on the National Women's History Museum's website. So we do encourage you to go to learn a little bit more if you're interested, in kind of learning about kind of the history of where this came from. So. We have a question about pets, which we've talked a little bit about, and somebody is wanting to know if you have, either of you have pets.
I do, yes. I have two cats. I have one, a really fluffy black cat, and a brown one. And they're quite lazy today. They're not around, but they do disturb sometimes during these kinds of things.
And when Gabby, our daughter, was in 2nd grade, Gabby is a big horse and dog girl. When she was in 2nd grade, she wanted a dog, and so we got 2 Cavalier King Charles Spaniel puppies, Lucky and Lucy. Those were their names. And Lucky and Lucy were with us for about 15 years, right? And so, you know, your kids grow and your dogs grow and your kids go off to college, and the moms and dads are there with the dogs and the cats that are still with us. And so sadly, we lost Lucky and Lucy because they became older just a couple of years ago. But for 15 years, we had Lucky and Lucy.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I don't want to interrupt your drawing. I just want to mention we have time for, if anybody has any other questions, we have time for one more question. So if there's a question out there that any of you are burning to ask, please go ahead and put that into the chat. But I want to thank you both so very much for being here, and Anne for spending all of this time doing this wonderful illustration before our eyes. And so, we have some comments coming in about how wonderful the program has been and how much people are appreciating this. So, so thank you very much. You know, to do this during Pride Month, but also just knowing that it's not just a month. This is something we should, you know, acknowledge and celebrate outside of just the month of June. But we do certainly appreciate you being with us today. It does not look like we have any other questions coming in. But I do, again, want to thank you both for being with us today and sharing this beautiful story and the illustration with us. Just a reminder that this presentation today is being recorded. It will be available on our website later this week. If you enjoyed today's program, please join the National Women's History Museum's mailing list to receive our monthly newsletter with upcoming programming. We are taking a short hiatus from our Brave Girls program for the summer, but we look forward to seeing you all again in the fall with new authors, illustrators, and other beautiful stories to share. And again, I just want to thank you both very, very much for taking the time and having this wonderful conversation with us and kind of showing us, you know, what Pride is all about. So thank you both very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all to everybody. We appreciate you taking your time on your Wednesday to be with us. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. So thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Happy Pride, everyone. Happy Pride. Bye.